Good afternoon, Mr. Falari.
Good
Can you hear me?
afternoon. I can hear
Okay.
you.
So you are a co-host. I don't know. No, I can't see any of the speakers
Asmal, what of Asmal?
or the moderator or anybody here. So,
Just
or
hold
maybe
on.
I've just not. That's what
Just
I'm saying.
hold
I
on.
can't see the speaker, moderator, or anybody.
You search for Asmal Abi. Hold on, hold on. Hold on. Let me call Asmal.
Shut.
But it's okay. I mean, I'm okay as co-host. It's just that we need maybe one or two more co-hosts. I hope you're not started recording yet, Abi.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not started. But I'm streaming already.
You're
Um,
streaming.
yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Since we're streaming already, then yes, we can start. I'll be happy to take on the position of what's it called? Of
So you are a co-host. I don't know. No, I can't see any. So can I admit everyone now? Because I won't be
yeah,
able to speak. So
I know. Okay, Asmal is here now.
yeah, just not. But
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. I can't see the speaker mode.
I've added her. That's for Asmal. Hold on, hold on.
No, I'm adding her now. I've added her, so I'm trying to make her a co-host. So.
Okay.
All right. So in case I'm not here,
Yeah.
anybody
Whose
can
voice
make
am I hearing in the
either
background?
of the other people. I don't think any of the speakers are here yet.
But look at me now.
Okay.
Just that we need Victor Idowu is here. I've added him.
Yeah, I'm adding him now.
Okay.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not stuck there. Oh, I'm streaming already.
Kayode is here.
Okay,
I've added Kayode.
Yeah.
So you can make Kayode a co-host.
So I think I've made everyone.
Victor Idowu. Because once people start joining, it's going to be
Both of them are co-hosts already. The
oh
speakers and
great.
the moderator are
No,
co-hosts. Okay, let me make.
Mr. Victor Idowu. Victor Idowu.
So can I admit everyone now? Because I will be
Yes,
able to
you can admit our guests. Our guests are waiting.
come in. Just a minute. Let me mute the Zoom the YouTube. Okay.
Asma, are you ready?
Okay.
Yes,
Asma,
I'm
are you
ready,
ready? Can
sir.
I unmute them?
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I see Kyle there. I see Victor. See Asma. Good
Can
afternoon,
I
everyone.
can I admit
Yes,
everyone now?
yes, Damilola, you can open the floodgates. Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to the first webinar for 2026 from the Nigerian Bar Association Garaki Branch CLE Committee, the Intellectual Property Lawyers Association, and All Arbitrates International. While we wait for, my name is Falari Aluko. I'm wearing two caps here. I'm not a moderator, very able and seasoned colleague is Asma Ahmed. Is here to moderate. All our speakers are also here with us. I just thought that I would address us quickly while the meeting is being populated. I think by 4:05 we can start. We have a very interesting topic today, and our speakers are well prepped to address the issues. So welcome everyone. I'm the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association Garki Branch CLE Committee, and I also wear another cap with the Intellectual Property Lawyers Association. And we thought to bring this very, very important topic to light, to address it. We have industry experts, Mr. Victor Edo. Asma will tell us a little more about him going forward. Mr. Kayode Adeniji, and myself, and then we also have a few other people in the meeting who we believe can shed some light on their experiences, professionally as developers or as users, and even as lawyers in this very naughty area. So welcome everyone once again. For the lawyers in the house, very quick house cleaning. Sometime in the middle of the event, because this program is an ICLE accredited program, so sometime in the middle of the webinar, we will display the ICLE link, the link to the ICLE. So if you are on the Zoom or if you're watching on YouTube, once you've registered, you can, you should please take advantage of that. We'll announce that the ICLE link is being has been shared, and we would urge you to please go and fill out for the purposes of claiming your CLE points. That is for lawyers. For non-lawyers, please follow the link still. There are some questions that we would like you to answer to help us make this conversation better. Before I hand over to Asma, I would also like to tell us, we'll still announce this later on, that this is a two-part series. This is the first of a two-part series. And the first part, we're looking at negotiating and drafting website development contracts. The second part, which we'll hold on Tuesday next week, we'll look at dispute resolution. We'll look at resolving website development disputes, contract disputes. And we find that this is a very sore area, across the world, and particularly here in Nigeria, now that a vast number of transactions, or our daily transactions, take place online. Everyone is in cyberspace, whether you're on social media, on mobile media, or on the internet web 3.0. That is the new town square. And so companies, individuals, NGOs, lawyers, these are issues that speak to our ability to function in today's world. So thank you very much and welcome once again. My name is Folarin Aluko. I will also be speaking during today's session. My mic will be on at that time, but I am the chairman of the Continuing Legal Education Committee, the CLE Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, Garki Branch, Abuja. I would like to thank our indefatigable chairman, Mr. Anthony Bamdele Ojo, who I believe is with us on the call, for being a fantastic chairman and for doing the branch proud. And I would like to also thank our speakers, who will go into that, and to everyone who is here for taking out the time to join us for this very important conversation. So once again, welcome everyone. I'll hand over the mic now to our moderator, Ms. Asma Ahmed. Please take it away from here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, sir. I'm honored to be moderating this session. My name is Asma Ahmed Afolabi. Today's conversation is about something many people only think about after there is a problem. It's website development contracts. In practice, most disputes between clients and web developers don't start with bad intentions. They start with unclear conversations about expectations, deliverables, ownership, and timelines. So the goal of this session is simple: to help us ask the right questions early and to document those answers clearly. so that websites functions as business tools, not sources of conflict. So, sorry. Our case speakers today are Mr. Kayode, Mr. Victor Kayode, Adeniji. Let me give a full introduction of who he is. Mr. Kayode Adeniji is a senior partner at Laurels LP and Arbitrators. He's also the founder of All Arbitrates. His legal argument in the landmark case of Megawatts Nigeria Limited versus Incorporated Trustees of Bagada Phase 2 Residents Association produced the groundbreaking judgment of the Federal High Court on the right to freedom of association. Kayode Adeniji played a major role as a legal advisor and representative of a major shareholder in the Econet Airtel International arbitration, one of the biggest and most complex international commercial arbitration in Africa. Please, let's welcome Mr. Kayode Adeniji. Is he here, sir?
Yes, I believe Mr. Kayode is with us, but I think Mr. Kayode will be speaking from the lawyer's point of view, and I think it would be good to start with, let's introduce Mr. Victor Idowu.
And then thank you for having me.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, welcome, Kayode. Thank you, sir. So we'll introduce Mr. Victor and then start.
All right, sir. Okay, welcome, Mr. Victor. Mr. Victor Idowu is a dynamic and visionary technology executive with nearly 2 decades of professional experience driving innovation, digital transformation, and infrastructure modernization across financial technology, government ICT systems, and enterprise solutions. He's recognized for leading complex projects that bridge technology, business strategies, and governance, strong expertise in cloud technologies, system architecture, cybersecurity, payment solutions, and IT governance, with a passion for mentoring teams and building resilient digital ecosystem. He's a co-founder of Uveros Technology Limited. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Victor Idowu. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be in your midst this evening.
Yes, sir. We're happy to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So, like I said, our goal for this session is simple. We want you to, teach us how to ask the right questions about web development in me. Our question centers around 3 pillars. Yes. So tell us, what does it mean to, what is the most effective way to structure payment and milestone to reduce disputes in web development contracts, sir?
Okay, thank you very much again. Web development is simple and can be complex at the same time. It depends on the approach. It depends on the vendor. Now, when I say the vendor may be an individual and it may be a company. a lot of developers approach these as individuals, while some have grown to become a company, to represent taking that gig, taking that job as a company. So these two areas, these two presentations will affect a lot of things, will affect a lot of decisions that will be taken along the line of the development. That's on the part of the developer. Now, on the part of the...
Well, with you, sir. So there was a break in transmission.
Oh,
sir, there was a break in transmission. Yes, sir.
Okay, let me repeat myself again. Okay, what I've said so far is there are two ways to it. On the part of the developer may be presenting him or herself as an individual and can be presenting him or herself as a company. That's on the part of the developer. On the part of the client also, the client can approach the developer as an individual, regardless of the kind of site that is being developed. Oh, I want to develop XYZ. I want to develop a site for my XYZ company, and I'm approaching a company I know or a guy I know. I may be approaching the guy as an individual or as a corporate organization. Now, that is a foundation that determines a lot of things. That is a foundation that changes a lot of things. Permit me to answer these questions and to present this talk using my own personal experience and what I have seen in the field. Am I allowed? I don't want you to put it to me.
Please proceed, sir. We would have it no other way.
Okay. Web development, from my personal experience, I started web development at a very young age. At a very young age, when I'll be begging clients, come and do this, come and do that. That's because I want to use my work for them to validate my own skills. You understand that background, that foundation. So, and as it applied to me, it applies to a lot of people out there. At that point, we don't care about contracts. We don't care about the terms. We don't care about this. We don't care about that. As a matter of fact, a lot of times you charge based on what it will cost you with a little change. That's how it started. And I'm sure a lot of people are still in that situation. That's on the side of the developer. On the side of the client also, a lot of companies and organizations until recently, people don't see website as an integral part of their business, as an integral part of their brand, as their organization. So many years back, a lot of people see it as like another social media account. They see it like people are doing it, let me do it. So at that stage, those years, they don't care about the contracts also. Now, the reason I'm laying this foundation is because ignorance a lot of times has put a lot of people, including myself, in serious issues as regards website development. But I'll talk about the areas that we need to pay attention to. I divided it into 3 places. The part 1 is the strategy itself. Now, we are talking about the strategy. That is where we define the scope. Now, I'm moving away from taking a website project as an individual. And I'm talking within the context of approaching or having this agreement with a corporate organization. So it is no longer Victor Edowu that is looking for a gig 20 years back. that is begging people to come and develop a website, approaching Mr. XYZ, who is the CEO of whatever company, but we are not having that agreement as an organization. It is Victor to this person that wants to do the job. So I'm moving away from that. Now I'm moving in the direction of Victor representing a corporate organization and then having this conversation with the representative of another organization. The first thing we'll be looking at is the development agreement. What is the scope of work? What exactly do you want us to do? Is it a content management system, or is it a static website? How many pages are we looking at? What is this? What is that? We want to define the number of pages. We want to define the technology you want. We want to define everything so that we know exactly what we are running into. If it is based on individuals, I want a website, you want a website, okay, give me your color, give me your logo, give me your this. Tell me about you, tell me about that, job done. But now we want exact scope of work. We want everything detailed and documented. So we need to know and we need to agree on the type of website. Is it static? Is it dynamic? Is it the content management system? If it's a content management system, oh, I like WordPress. I don't like WordPress. I like Joomla. I like Drupal. I like this. I don't like that. Or I want a custom-made content management system. It needs to be defined. Then browser compatibility, we have that. Because of our time, I'll just rush through the things that we need to consider, and I want it to be real, so I'll be inserting examples. So we have the managing, we have the content phase of it also. Who provides what? Who gives us this content? This, etc. I've been in this for so many years, of course, moving from web development to software development and other applications. And in building web applications, a lot of websites are still attached to web applications. As an organization, we took up a project with a company recently, and after agreeing on all the terms, we are doing this, we are doing that. Let me say this. A lot of times, because of what we intend doing, or a lot of times because of the passion of doing the job, the excitement of doing this or that, we may omit part of this contract. It happens a lot. So let me give you this example where we had a clear scope of work. What are we doing? The technology we are using. We had all of that agreed. And then we also have it that, okay, you will give us content. Now that term, you will give us content, was very vague because of the organization we were dealing with. We didn't define who is responsible for giving us content. And because of that, that created a big chaos 2 years down the line. The project started, and then, of course, we believe we were done with the project and the rest. And the CEO of the company did not check the website until about 8 months after we had delivered the project. He didn't go through the website until about 8 months after we had delivered the project. And by the time he checked through it, he was very mad. He was very angry. You have reduced us to a Nigerian company. We are an international conglomerate. We are this, we are that. What is the problem? The content was wrong. How did we get the content that we used? It was his own administrator that provided the content. After the provision of the content, the same administrator and few other managers looked through the application. Well, it's not just a website, it's a website and it has some applications, applications behind it. They looked through it, but they concentrated more on the functionality of the web app. They didn't look at the public-facing aspect of the website. So they didn't check the content. 8 months down the line, when the man saw the content, he was mad, he was angry, this, that, and co. He wanted a refund. If you are not refunding, you are several conditions. Okay, so where did the problem come from? They gave us content that belonged to them actually, but that content was 15 years old. The content they provided was 15 years old. It was the content of when they were just running contract and engineering services. Whereas the company has grown, they are into mining. In fact, it's a conglomerate now. They have about eight other sister companies under them. So we had a lot of back and forth. On the long run, who is to blame? Who can answer that question? Who can answer the question? No, this is a challenge with virtual meetings. Okay, let me proceed. On the long run, we had to share the blame because we were given the content. Unfortunately, the person that gave us the content was no longer with the organization. So yeah, you are very correct. Both parties. But at the initial stage, none of us wanted to accept the blame. But if eventually we had to go that line, we had to recognize our faults and then move on with it. So one of the things, as I said, is the scope of work. It must be clearly defined. And in defining it, the technology to be used should be clearly defined. Who gives us what should be clear also. What is the channel of exchanging information? And then who is the representative that is giving us this information? So that if the person signing the contract is assigning Mr. B to us, if Mr. B goofs, we are not responsible for the mistake of Mr. B. The company will be responsible for that. So that's that. Then another area that needs to be attended to is the intellectual property. A lot of times when we are developing applications and websites, we have issues of graphics, issues of logo. Some companies don't have logo in the first place. They want you to create the logo, create this, create that, and this and that. They may not define the logo creation part. They just think it's part of the web development process. We need to state clearly, I'm developing this logo for you. It becomes your property. And I'm charging this amount for this logo creation. And then ideas that are shared during, because definitely when you're developing a website or web application, you share ideas. The ideas that are shared, who owns the idea? That needs to be defined also. There's another thing that we need to discuss, the non-disclosure agreement. So let's go through the checklist of the documents. We need a non-disclosure agreement which protects trade secrets and business ideas. You can't develop a website effectively, especially if it is for a fresh company, without getting ideas of what the company does. Then number two, we have the proposal or the estimate. How much is this going to cost? What are we doing exactly? Of course, after we have the scope of work, we will determine the cost. Those two things are very, very important. They are very, very important before we move to the core contract itself. In the core contract itself, then that's where we have the service agreement. That one covers liability, it covers termination, it covers warranties. If we develop this website, and about 15 or 18 years ago, I developed the website. That was the first time I was experiencing it. And then I got mails from somewhere, I think from one country abroad. I got a young man got website design. After designing this website, I know I will have some change in the pocket to do big boy and not the rest. Just normal gig. Gave me job. Okay. I got the ideas of what they do. I downloaded images from the internet, put it on their websites. They love the website. Beautiful. You are good. You are that. Few months later, I started getting mails. Copyright issue. I'm sure you understand what I mean.
Yes, sir.
I was confused. How do I go about this? What is this? I don't even know how to respond. So those are the things we need to take care of. Liability. Now, I can't even remember how I handled that. But now, if something like that happens, in fact, it will not happen, but then the owner of the company, that's my client, should not be held liable for whatever I do, especially if it's content that did not emanate from them. If I generate kind of content graphics or anything, I should be held responsible for my own actions. That's under the service agreement. Then we have the payment milestone. When are you paying me? At what point am I getting this? At what point am I getting that? I'm sure we understand that. And then we also have the assignment deed. That's IP assignment deed. How to formally transfer ownership of code or design to the client upon final payment. It is one thing a lot of developers don't like to do. It should be in the agreement also. If you are paying me ₦1 to do this job, with this ₦1, this is what I'm giving you. I will give you a design that will look like this, and it will be on the internet. I will not give you anything else. If it is clearly stated in the services agreement, there will be no problem in the future. But if it is not clearly stated, by the way, let me say this. I had taken up a project with how do I present it without revealing identity? I handled the project with a prominent Nigerian, one of the first 10 citizens of the country, and then it was an agreement between me and his aide. I didn't interact with the man. I didn't sign the contract with the man. We only met a couple of times, but the aide was the intermediary. After the first year, we had an agreement of the renewal process and the rest. They wanted to shift the agreement. They wanted to renege on the contract, and I refuted. I was in my office a few days after that discussion, and I saw two police vans to come and arrest me because of a simple agreement. Now, the agreement we had was verbal, although recorded. We'll get to that. We'll get to that also because we exchanged messages via email and WhatsApp and the rest. But then somebody wanted to be greedy along the line. How will my boss be paying this amount for XYZ? And then we'll be paying this every year. I've asked, we are all in Abuja. I've gone to UTC to go and ask how much they are doing it. They say it is 30,000. why do you want to collect 1 million naira? I will pay you 100,000. And then the conversation did not go very well. So on the long run, getting to the police station, it wasn't very funny. The main man was dragged into the issue because they actually thought they could box me to a corner with that. Okay, moving away from that, if it is not clearly specified, if it is not clearly stated what will be given to who, because the allegation or the charge they had against me was that I was holding the office of the man ransom, and that cyberbullying, cyberbullying, data. You people now. A lot of things are levied against me, but then it was a learning curve. I think that's one of the reasons I can be privileged to be having this kind of talk here today. Okay, then on the phase 3 of the document checklist, we have the change request form. That's after we had delivered what you requested of us. Now you want to make changes. Please put it in writing. Put it in writing. Let it be documented, because it is now different from what we have agreed. If you just say it by mouth, you can come back to deny it 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, or any time. Then we also have what we call the user acceptance testing. If you have given us a scope of work, we need to give you a user acceptance. You need to test what you have given to us. Once you accept it, you sign. And that gives everybody a clear path and gives us I'm sure there's an area that everybody wants me to touch, and I'm going there. That's why I'm rushing all of these ones. The area, okay, let me just rush these ones till we get there. Then we have the handover documentation. What are we handing over? The manuals, how to use this, how to use that, the login credentials, and then the server instructions. I had mentioned earlier on, the initial contract or the payment or whatever negotiation we had is going to help us decide if we are delivering login credentials and server instructions. That one must be very clear, because sometimes some clients want exclusive application. You want me to design a website with fresh code, non-reusable code. Nobody's going to use that code again. And then you want to pay me the same amount you want to pay somebody that can adjust a single website 20 times. You understand? So if you want something to be exclusive, that's part of the things we put into the agreement. You want exclusive design. You may not be able to pay for it at once. You want something very unique, something exclusive, and you can't pay for it at once. On the other part, I can think, okay, I can make this money over the years. So let's have this agreement. I'm supposed to charge you 10 million naira. How about I charge you 1 million naira, and then we sign the agreement that I'm in charge of this website for the next 15 years. And I'll be charging you 1 million naira every year for the next 15 years. I'm using that as an example. So in that case, the agreement will not include delivering login credentials. It will not include delivering server instructions. I hope we understand. Now, the area that we need to look into very, very well, that really cause confusion, cause problems and chaos, is who owns the domain name, who owns the server, who owns this, who owns that. Let me be very clear. The domain name usually, in fact, not usually, the domain name is the property of the client. The website is not on lease. The domain name is the property of the client. And a lot of times, clients are not bothered because they don't even know the technical details of what is supposed to be done or what they are supposed to do or not. So they just leave everything. You have developed website. Oh, we have our website. We can see it online. They are claiming they have a website and they don't even have a single control of the website. That gives the developer a chance to hold their clients hostage a lot. Even if I've designed a website with an exclusive code, I can still give the client the access to the domain name. So if we are not satisfied with whatever we are having, then you can point your domain elsewhere. However, everything is still on agreement. For me, I can give an example of who I had discussed this with. I made the client to understand that you own this domain name. But because of the agreement terms between us, you have not even paid 10% of what you are supposed to pay. And then the services I'm rendering is going to project the domain name, increase the value of the domain name exponentially. I mean, a domain name is bought for how much? And then within 6 months or 1 year, the domain name is worth about 10,000 US dollars. Even if I give you access to the domain name, you can get somebody else because the value now is on the name, not majorly on the content. So I explained, you are supposed to be the owner and you are the owner. But then I cannot give you access to it because of XYZ reason. The value is more on the name rather than the application. So you won't have access to it, but then these and these are the conditions you need to meet before you can have access to it. If anything happens, this is how you can retrieve it, etc. That was what we had in that agreement. And because of the lessons I've learned in the past, it was in black and white. But if we don't have that kind of extra time is running, you didn't give me time anyway, but I'll be wrapping up very soon. Okay, so
sorry about that. Before you go on, sir, still on this same topic, I have a question that I would like you to address. Still on the issue of ownership, sir. So what right should a client definitely retain after handover? And how do third-party plugins? Sorry?
Maybe we should, so we don't break the flow of thought. When we come to questions, Q&A, I'm sure we can take some of this, so we don't break the flow of thought.
Okay, yeah, it's because he's talking about the topic, so that's why I just want to put it to him.
Okay.
So how do third-party plugins and license complicate ownership, sir?
Yeah, third-party plugins and licenses. We have different types of them, and we have different types of licenses. Within the scope of work, the plugins will have been identified. The licenses will have been identified. And some software or application vendors, that's the people issuing these licenses, some of them don't deal with third party. In that case, let me give you an example of building a financial infrastructure. If I'm building a financial infrastructure for an organization and I'm setting up a new bank for an organization, and I need to integrate some, am I permitted to mention company names?
Yes, sir. Go on, sir.
I want to integrate Flutterwave or Paystack, and I want to integrate Dodger, for example, because I want to be able to run KYC and these other processes. So these are licenses, these are plugins, these are APIs that I need to onboard and integrate. Paystack will not deal with the developer. They see the developer as intermediary. So I'm developing for you as an organization. I'm developing for MBA as an organization. And I am Uveros Technologies. I want to integrate Paystack. Paystack will recognize that, okay, MBA needs my technical expertise. So they can communicate with me, with you in the loop. And the way they do it is because they need KYC, they need AML, they need a lot of things. I won't really want to sign that, if there's money laundering on this platform, who will be held responsible? They won't hold me responsible. They need somebody, they need to hold MBA responsible. So in that kind of situation, the license is going to be issued directly to MBA. The agreement between Paystack, the agreement will be between Paystack and MBA. I can only be a supervisor. Okay, we need this thing, go and sign it. We need that, go and sign it. As a matter of fact, confirm your code, confirm this, confirm that. It will be sent directly to the representative of MBA. So that is a class. But then there are other APIs, there are other plugins that you just pick online. Anybody can work online and buy it. If you are buying it for this project, and it has been defined in the scope of work that I'm buying XYZ plugin, although developers don't tell clients the plugins they are buying. So if I'm not telling you as a client that I'm buying XYZ plugin, once I buy the plugin, it's your property. Because I did it I'm using it for the job. However, it's possible that I have this plugin before. It's probably a plugin that can be used on multiple websites. So I have it before, I'm deploying it on your website, and then everybody moves on. Then you have access to it. It still becomes your property. I hope I've answered that question.
Yes, the large extent. I guess if you go back to your...
Okay, to my original presentation. Okay, so we were talking about domain name. As I said, domain name is the property of the client. In fact, it is highly recommended anyway, if I'm brought in as a consultant to a web application development, I will advise that the client should register the domain name himself or herself and transfer the DNS codes to the developer, because that is a major thing that the developer can use to hold the client. If the developer registers it in his own personal name, the client is merely renting their own brand. I hope you understand. You are only a tenant in your own house. So the best practice is for the client to purchase the domain and then give the developer the DNS access. Then now talking about the hosting platform, the client should be the holder of the account also. But I have mentioned this earlier on. There can be a lot of variables. It all depends on the original negotiation. How much are we charging for what? What exactly? If anybody invites me, come and develop an application for me, the application will do XYZ thing. It is using this technology and that technology and go. And then once you are done with the application, you are handing it over to me, code, domain, this, that, and co. Everything is spelled clearly. It will inform how I will charge. Because a lot of times developers develop applications with the hope that once I have this gig, by next year, I'll be renewing it. I will keep making money every year. So if you are shattering that hope, then we must infuse it into the initial agreement. I must include that into the original cost of the development. So, as I said, usually the developer, the client should hold their account. Now, there's another angle to it. A lot of developers have reseller hosting accounts. That's to say, I have an account with XYZ company, I have an account with GoDaddy, and the account I have with GoDaddy allows me to resell. If I don't spell it clearly to my client may be expecting handover accounts to me. So if it is not in our original agreement, I can go the way of a reseller. I know it is cheaper. If I can get a reseller account at 10 Naira, and then the original cost is 100 Naira, and I charge my client 50 Naira, that's for hosting only. I've saved him cost and I've made profit. However, if he has specified that I will take access, I will have this, you need to give me this, so I cannot onboard him on my reseller account, I will open a different account for him altogether. So then if we are using developer hosting, there must also be something we call migration clause. Because if you are relying on my reseller account and our relationship, we need to terminate the relationship for one reason or the other, what are we migrating? Who will bear the cost of the migration? What is the guarantee of a full backup? And all of these details must be included in the contract. Then, the big games are the domain and the hosting accounts. How about server and cPanel access? Because some people don't even give server and cPanel access. That also needs to be in the contract. Because after development, even if I'm going to be maintaining the site and you request for your cPanel and server access, yes, I can give it to you, but then I have to put it in writing. You have to put it in writing. I'm not responsible for whatever happens to that website due to the fact that you have access to the cPanel or due to whatever changes was done on the cPanel and server. I hope you understand, because that is a tricky way. I've experienced, I've had that experience where the secretary of an organization was excited about new knowledge in IT, went for a crash course in web design, and then practiced with their company website. And after the practice, got his fingers burnt, and he couldn't tell the organization that I did this, I did that. So they were looking for us up and down. You guys did this, you guys did that, and go. But thank God we were able to trace. We had the log of the login. We had the location, the login. In fact, after we discovered that somebody logged into this panel at so and so date, so and so hour, there was still denial. Then we had to locate the IP address and the location where the login took place. So when we presented it to the chairman of the company, I said, this address is so and so person's house. And that's how we know. That's how we got to know who did the evil. Okay, so that needs to be in the condition also. We need to spread it out. If I'm giving you this access, you'll be responsible for whatever comes out of it. And then the handover. The handover, I've mentioned it also before. After user acceptance testing and all the verification, we are handing over the contract based on what we have agreed on. If we have agreed on handing over the domain name, don't let me mention domain name. Domain name is supposed to be there naturally. But then There are several reasons where people don't. If clients don't ask for access to domain name, it's always at the advantage of the developer. So developer doesn't even have, they don't let discussion go that line. Why will I let you go when I can milk you every year? I hope you understand. So it's not a topic developers want to raise. But from my experience, some things are better let go. Okay, so in summary, the assets are the domain name, which is for the client, the hosting account is for the client, the source code after payment or based on negotiation or whatever kind of development we have, it can be for the client, and it can be for the developer licensed to the client, or it can be property of the client altogether. And then admin passwords is also property of the client. Then who has access? Who has access to domain name? Developer has access to DNS settings. That's in the real world where things are done properly. Then developer has access to the hosting account, most times via FTP or the cPanel, and then developer has a copy of the source code. Even if I'm delivering it to the client, even if it is sole property of the client, I will still have a copy. I may not have a right to reuse it for any other organization, but I still have a copy in case the client needs to update it, in case the client lost his own copy and the rest. And then admin passwords, developer has access to the admin passwords. So that is a summary of the things that needs to be taken care of. I hope I've done justice to, and there are danger zones around those assets that I mentioned. I've mentioned it earlier on in the course of the discussion. The domain name, if it is not registered by the client, it may, the developer can hold the company ransom. All right, thank you very much. I hope I've done justice to this conversation, and I'm ready to take questions.
Definitely, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That was a real, really enlightening session. You've just given us a whole lecture on website development contracts. So, sir, we're going to leave the question for the Q&A session. So we hope everybody who I know a lot of people have questions in mind. So put down your questions. So when it's time for the Q&A, you'll be able to answer our questions, sir. So with that in mind, I will be calling on Mr. Folari to come on board, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Asma. And thank you, Mr. Ido, for a very interesting session. I think you made the work fantastically easy for me. I don't know, let me see if my video, I can turn on my video. Challenge is just that network, as we all know in Nigeria, even though we're talking about website development contract. Don't know if Zoom can look at the website development contract for the Zoom platform, to determine who is responsible when people get logged out on account of network failure. Maybe Asma will be the one to file the action against them. Yes, I saw that. So thank you very much. So I've just shared some of my thoughts on some of the proactive steps that lawyers can take, and if you're not a lawyer, proactive steps that your lawyer can take with regard to ensuring that your interests are protected, whether you are a developer or a client, a user, or you're a lawyer, or even by client now. Client is different from people that use websites, because even the user of the website also has rights, and these rights oftentimes extend to or will impact the client. after the developer has finished their work and has moved on. But I think Victor really checked all the boxes. I would like to just quickly speak to five clauses that are a must. Mr. Victor talked about a wide range of issues that I think are very important. I will highlight 2 of those issues, let's say 3, and then I'll just speak quickly to 3 clauses or 5 clauses that we should include in any conversation about web design, even if it is one of these promo packages where people are offering websites for 30,000 naira. But at least these 5 issues or these 5 clauses, 5 boxes that we made should be checked. But before I start, I'll speak to 3 of the issues that I think Mr. Victor raised. And the 3 issues have to do with their questions of ownership. And they center around who owns the domain. Well, who owns the domain? Who owns the hosting? Because a website is a combination of domain name, that is the URL, and then www.xyz.com, the domain name, then the hosting. So what a website is, I know Mr. Victor didn't go into it. Website essentially is a series of files that are hosted on a computer or a server somewhere, that anyone can view at any time. And the purpose of hosting is because you want to ensure that if somebody goes to that unique locator, that unique address, that's the domain name, they can find you or your files at that domain or at that location. So the files that we see, what Victor will call them the graphic user interface. When you see a button that says click here and you click, on the back end, there's a lot of code that is running. So that graphic user interface, what we see when we click here, or when we click yes or click submit, all those things that we click are the interface. They are pictures, they are resources that are hosted on a server somewhere. The server is just a computer, because a computer that stores data. The storage can be at different levels. There are many levels. To run a server, you need a lot of things. You need constant electricity, you need constant cooling. There are so many factors. This is one of the reasons why we don't really have many servers here in Nigeria. And which is why many of the hosts that we use or many developers use hosts from abroad. Mr. Victor mentioned talk about resellers. But I would like to speak to the issue of the domain name and then the hosting, because the way the industry is structured in such a way that once somebody is registering a domain, developing a site for a client, the traditional modus operandi is for the developer to register the domain in their own, through their own platform, using their own login details, through their own platform essentially. And what that does is that it automatically gives the developer access to all the resources, regarding that website. So you're asking the developer, so that is how the structure is, the current format or structure is organized. So it is very important to expressly request for access to, for ownership of the domain and the hosting. Because you have the domain, the developer pays for the domain separately from the hosting. Domain and hosting are sold separately. It's very important to ensure that, for me, it might even be a good idea to have an account with you can afford it, or if you have the time, to register an account with a host, with a registrar, and then you do the registration. Because most times, again, maybe out of convenience or because of the order in which the industry is organized, the default tends to be that the developer registers the domain name and the and the hosting in their own name. And so in the eyes of the registrar, these two assets belong to the developer, even though in reality they actually belong to the client. I think those two things are very key to highlight. And then something else that Victor mentioned, which is access to the back end, what we call the back end or the control panel. This is very, very, very key. If you're a lawyer, it's essential that not only should the ownership and access to these three components be inserted into the agreement, but they should also be handed over at the point of registration or creation. So once the domain is registered and the hosting has been paid for and all that the population has been sorted out, it is very important that there should be a handover immediately to the client. What that does is that at the very least, client has access to the site, and this is what leads to, or at least it will help you avoid a situation where you start calling the police, making allegations of cyberbullying, and so on. And it also leads, it leads us to a conversation around how do we resolve disputes. And I'm sure for those of us who came in after we had done the introduction, this is actually a two-part conversation. Today we'll be talking about negotiating and drafting contracts, but in the part 2, next week Tuesday, we'll be discussing resolving disputes, website development disputes. Because I've had the opportunity of participating in several dispute resolution processes, mediation, all manner of dispute resolution. And myself and Mr. Victor were both involved in one very recently. And I'm sure many lawyers on the call, many of us will remember that was it a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was an incident where a developer for the NBA decided to withhold access to back end. And so NBA couldn't even tell how many lawyers had paid practicing fees for that particular year. For those of us for lawyers who work with the Corporate Affairs Commission, in the past, you will just hear that the consultant has locked access to the back end, and you start asking, what is the problem and when did this problem start? So I think number one, access. So it's not just important to write this into the agreement. It's very important to also ensure that the client has access. And when drafting or when negotiating these agreements, to start thinking along the lines of, okay, what happens if there's a dispute? How do we ensure that, if the client is a service provider, that the service is not disrupted, on the altar of that dispute, and that the dispute, if any, can be resolved easily without creating any waves, unnecessary waves or negative waves for the client. So I'll just very quickly speak to 5 clauses that should go into any website development contract. And I'll start by saying that, in my opinion, I've had the opportunity to draft different types of website agreements, MSAs, just plain contract on pages. I think the best approach is to come from a point of simplicity. And this is because most times the user, the client, and the developer are not really interested in several pages of, reviewing several pages of documents. Again, this would I say this under advisement, because the degree of sensitivity would depend on the nature of the project being engaged, that the developer is being engaged to carry, handle. So if it is a project that is all projects are sensitive, but there are some projects that would require extremely detailed terms. And when you look at website development agreements, the detail really tends to come in the area of the scope of work and the deliverables. So good agreements tend to be very heavy, in terms of spelling out what the scope of work is, what the deliverables are, the timeline, and then the means by which the parties can agree or reach a, decisions as to corrections, how many reviews, things like that. So very quickly, from experience, 5 clauses that I think have led to some of the more interesting disputes that I've had the opportunity of participating in. First of all, scope of work. I just said that scope of work, a lot of the time, you find that most times you might even load scope of work in an appendix or in the schedule to the agreement. And this is because, depending on the nature of the time, people talk about web apps. Web apps, a lot of the time, are depending on the type of the app anyway. Many web apps or many apps today on our phones are actually just proxies for their APIs or their means through which you can interact with the website. So depending on the complexity and the scope of the assignment, scope of work is very, very key. And of course, the scope of work should tell us what is being built, the features, the functionalities, the type of the website. Is it dynamic? Is it static? Is it a blog? Is it an e-commerce site, etc.? The technology stack that is being used, and then this is very important, content responsibility. So who is responsible for what? For text, images, logos, there should be a very clear line of communication spelled out. But a lot of the time you find that scope of work is easy to drop scope of work in the appendix or schedule to the, it may not necessarily be built into the body of the agreement itself. So scope of work and deliverables, so that the more detailed you are in this space, the easier it is for everyone to know when and where any issue might arise. The second clause, the set of clauses that cluster of clauses one should look at is intellectual property. This is very important because there are at least 2 dimensions that you can look at intellectual property ownership with regards to web development. The first dimension is the question of who owns the website after it is built. Because a website is a compilation, it's many things. Although implicit websites do not qualify for copyright protection or any other general broad form of under the intellectual property umbrella. But the IP on the web, so the website as an IP asset is broken down into different components. And we talked about the domain name, and then you have the domain name, and then you have the elements on the site. So generally speaking, the entire website as a whole ordinarily should belong to the client. The domain is the intellectual property of the client, ordinarily speaking. Now, so that is one sense in which you're thinking of intellectual property, who owns the website. The second sense in which you think of intellectual property issues will be, where do we get the things, the features that go into the website? So the pictures, you're building a travel site, and you need pictures of people smiling on vacation. Where do you get those pictures from? And this is very, very key, because we have now there are a lot of sites that provide royalty-free photos, but they also provide them under some different types of licenses. Some you must attribute, some no attribution, so on and so forth. But it is very important that the developer the developer should be very careful to ensure that any resources used on the website are properly licensed for those that require license. This is very key, because what then tends to happen is the picture is just pulled up the internet. It will lead to a defamation claim against the company, and in a situation where the agreement does not have an indemnity clause, it creates problems. But even when there's an indemnity clause, most times the developers do not have the means or the capacity to pay or to indemnify the client. So we see that there's a huge problem there. So in terms, it is very important to ensure that access to the development, the tools or the elements that go into development are taken from places where the developer has all the rights to use them. I could go into many stories. I've seen cease and desist from different companies. There was a client who received a cease and desist from Warner sometime early last year regarding some elements on their website that the developer had built into the website. That is the second sense in which you think of intellectual property. And there's a third sense in which you can think of intellectual property. This will have to do with websites that are interactive or that provide some sort of interface for the public. And in this sense, you want to also ensure that the policies, the website policies, are structured in such a way that the client, the owner of the website, is indemnified if a third party posts, uploads, or uses content that they do not own the copyright or intellectual property to. So these are the three senses in which you want to think of intellectual property ownership. But the third sense is limited to a certain category of websites that provide for some sort of interface. And you can think on the broadest of scale, you can think of Facebook. So the first thing you need to think about is scope of work and deliverables, the intellectual property ownership, and then linked to scope of work and deliverables, you want to also ensure that there are clauses that spell out payment terms. And with web development contracts, most times, I'm sure Victor will say that you sometimes, yes, clients pay upfront the entire amount upfront. But most times, payment is often staggered. When payment is staggered, it depends on the complexity again of the assignment. Payment is to be staggered. The payment must be connected to milestones. So this is very important. If you're staggering payments, then you must link that payment to milestones. And those milestones should be milestones that are clearly articulated. So, for example, we're saying that we'll make the first payment upfront so that the developer can purchase the domain, hosting, and begin. Then the second payment will be issued, upon completion of X. So let's say the developer now has a dummy up, or they've installed. What really tends to happen is that most developers install resource. Most developers install templates and then customize those templates. But you want a situation where if you're breaking the payment into bits, then the payment should be based on milestones that are clearly spelled out. Because you can stretch payment terms as far as discussing currency, mode of payment, link penalty, refund conditions, etc., and so on. Then the fourth set of clauses should center around change requests, revisions, and change requests. This is very key. But I guess it speaks for itself. Victor has spoken extensively about this. And then finally, maintenance and support. And this is where most developers, this is, I think, the source of a large amount of conflict, because a lot of the time developers might want to charge when developers believe that the reward for their effort often comes from the reward for the effort comes from the administration and management side of the transaction. And that is true because you're buying a domain, the domain has to be renewed on a yearly basis, hosting renewed on a yearly basis, and payment has to be made for this. Give the developer an opportunity to charge clients and customers. But it is very important to ensure that we discuss what maintenance services are you going to provide. There was this case. I had this client who had a developer do some work for them. The developer used a WordPress template that constantly requires what do you call that thing? There's always a constant need to update. So that template is updated frequently. And so what will happen is that in the absence of an update, the website will be down. Or if the template was not updated time, the website will be down. And it creates all manner of problems. But we can see how that works. So it's important to spell out that clause. What the scope of work, but what services post development, the what do we call it, the developer will be required to provide. And so I think those are my interventions. Thank you everyone for listening. I would before I hand over, I would like to mention that if you're for the lawyers on the call, they're not all lawyers, we'll be sharing the CLE. I think we're about halfway through, over halfway. We'll be sharing the CLE details for registration, and for everyone else, please, for feedback and for further notification, please just take a look at the link in the. It's going to be displayed. I don't know if we can all see the screen at the moment, but if you see any information in any information in the feedback form. You can also share that as well. So, part 2 of this very interesting conversation takes place on Tuesday. We will share notices to everyone who has registered and to be a part of this conversation. We'll share notices, but that will then go much deeper into dispute resolution, and particularly we'll be looking at platforms like All Arbitrate and how the solution to resolving disputes has moved beyond filing petitions for cyberbullying, cyber terrorism, and all that, and even going to court, spending years in litigation when over a website development when it could have been resolved within hours or even within days. So thank you very much. Asma, permit me to hand over back to you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was a very enlightening session. So far, both speakers touched on the scope of agreements, and they really went deep into explaining how far it goes when going into website development contract. The scope is very important. Mr. Flurry touched on payments, structures, and he also talked about deliverables and many other things. So with that in mind, we're calling on Mr. Kayode to highlight on dispute resolution on website development contracts. So please permit me to call on Mr. Kayode. Welcome, sir. Mr. Kayode? Okay, as we wait for Mr. Kayode, let's look at what we have done so far. Mr. Victor discussed certain clause that should be included in the agreement. He talked about exclusive design. He said it's very important.
Mr. Kayode was having challenge on muting initially, but I think he's now a co-host, so he can unmute his mic now.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't unmute.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Because I was trying to unmute myself and it wasn't allowing me. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Both speakers have spoken very well. And even for me, I have gained a lot of insight into web development. I'm just going to share a few thoughts as we round up this session in preparation for the Tuesday session. And this is to everyone listening to this webinar, which is the fact that website is now an asset. It is like an asset, like you have a property in maybe any part of Abuja or Lagos. So we need to understand as lawyers that website is now an asset in the world we are today. I also want to let us know that, especially for young lawyers who have friends who are social media influencers, who have social media accounts where they sell products to people or they offer services. People go on their TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook to patronize them. And you will find that most of the dispute arise because the person managing those accounts cannot keep up with the pace of request and communication. So at a certain time, it is usually managed by one person managing like 3 accounts. So I'm saying this to us as lawyers, and I'm going ahead of us because I like to think into the future. And I know that for most of us, 15 years ago, we were not having this discussion as lawyers about website as an asset and going deep down. 15 years ago, we're talking about property and all of that. But now we are where we are. Now I'm going forward to another 10 years that most of those social media influencers you see will not be able to keep up with requests, with communication, with messages, with orders that people are going to be placing on them on TikTok, Instagram. At the end of the day, most of them will come back to a website, which is they will aggregate all of the followers and views they are getting on all those on those social media and put it on a website, so that website, if you make another on the website, is one channel. It can be managed and their own life can, go on. So if you are a young lawyer listening to this webinar, most of the people in your circle who are very passionate about social media influencing and selling stuff online, they are coming to the web. So what we need to do as lawyers, and talking about the business side of this, is to begin to advise people as you are registering your business with CAC, registering a domain name is very key. Also, another point I would like to make is the fact that several features we see on websites, for example, you try to maybe invest in a company through their website and you are trying to recoup your money, or your money is hanging as you are trying to transfer money from Nigeria abroad or from abroad to Nigeria or investing. And you see people coming on Twitter and saying, oh, this website, give me my money. I've been, requesting for you to pay. The reason is that within an average website, there are several tools that are involved. For example, if you go to a particular some website, you will find like AI tools that they have used, that once you get there, the AI will ask you, oh, I am Siri or I am Alexa, what can I do for you today? And there are other tools embedded inside a particular website. It could be video conferencing tool. It could be maybe prompt. It could be just anything in a website. Most of the time, the people who develop those websites, sometimes they forget that in one website, you can have several subscriptions to different products that contributes to the building of a particular website. And the expiry time of different subscription of those tools that people use, they differ. And your developer could forget, and it could cause a glitch in the website. So the point I am making is that these are some of the areas and some of the points of dispute and conflict in website development, which Mr. Fulani has spoken about, the indemnity side of things. So I'm just saying this as a preparation for Tuesday, that we all need to understand that website is now an asset, and there is no better time to have this kind of discussion. And for me, I am so glad that Nigerian lawyers are becoming, we are discussing things that in some developed nations, they are not even started having this discussion. And it gladdens my heart to know that there are people within the profession who are thinking forward about the new oil of the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kayode. Before you wrap up, I would like to ask a very little question. I would like to ask one question. What is the most expensive small mistakes you have seen in a website development contract?
Yeah, it's intellectual property violation. Intellectual property violation, where a developer uses a content without consulting the owners of the website. And at the end of the day, maybe they send the company an email to pull it down, because usually people give notices of intellectual property infringement. They didn't pay attention, and the company was sued. And in this instance, there was no even agreement between the developer and the company. But the company who gave the notice had to sue the company, and the company was saying it was the developer that developed it. So it was intellectual property infringement that I have seen in my own experience.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. So right now we'll be heading to I know a lot of people have questions in their mind, so we'll be heading to the Q&A section. As we move into that session, I will encourage us to keep our questions practical and scenario-based. And we shouldn't ask you know how, especially the lawyers here, you know how we normally like to frame our questions like we're in court. So please, let's keep it very minimal. And you can ask as much as you can, but please, when listening out the question, keep it very practical. Thank you. So the floor is now open for Q&A.
I think anyone who has a question can raise their hand or can write out the question in the chat so that.
Yes. If you want to speak, you can let us know so that you'll be unmuted.
Now, still on the housekeeping, just to ensure that the links are good. I'm sure I don't see any comments in the chat, so I'm guessing that the CLE links or the feedback links are working. Thank you very much, Asma. Thank you, Mr. Kali. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. So if you have a question, please let us know. You can either put it on the chat box or you can raise your hand so that you'll be unmuted. I hope the young lawyers on this webinar have taken note of what Mr. Kayode said. He said, website is an asset. I don't know if we understand the deep meaning of this. It is now an asset. Land properties are no longer the only properties we can have. Websites are asset for young lawyers. So this is a very, very gray area every young lawyer should look into very well. Mr. Kayode, I think someone have a question for you on the chat box. I will read it out.
Okay.
He said, Do you mean we should register the domain name with CAC? I didn't quite get the point.
So what I'm saying is that just like you have a friend who says he wants to start a business and you register their name with CAC, that person might not have the money right now, maybe to build a website or something, but the least and the minimal thing you can do for that person as a lawyer is to advise them that this name you have given me, let's look for a domain name for the name of the company as a domain name on the internet and let us buy it. You might not build that website immediately, but you need to have that domain name because that business can grow. What happens is that if that business grows and that domain name has been taken over by somebody in Bangladesh or India or any, it means that you will not be able to create a website exactly in the name of the registered company. So part of our advice to our clients should be that, oh, I am registering this company for you. Do you have a domain name? That is one of the questions you should be asking your client as a lawyer. They know that you already understand that they are going to grow in the next 5 years. So lawyers should be futuristic. Don't just give them certificate and say, hey, you have been registered. I have registered you with CAC. We must be forward looking. We must be, ahead of, and for me, my ambition is that Nigerian lawyers should be ahead of every lawyer in the world, not only in Africa. So if we are beginning to ask this question with our clients, it just shows that we already know where the business will probably be in the next 5 years. Because if that business grows big and you are not able to create a domain name on the internet in the exact way you created that name on CAC record, that person will have to use another name for their website that is different from the actual name of the company. That's what I meant by, as you are registering them in CAC, just ask them if they are willing to register a domain name. Thank you.
I hope that answers your question, Ms. Abayomi. Idyong Udofia is asking, so what body or platform handles the registration, reservation of these domain names?
I think Mr. Ido can answer that. I know there are different platforms which people can register domain name. If I would like to pass that to the technical person. I know Google Host and other platforms, but I know IT people and media people can easily register domain names. Mr. Ido.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, you have answered the question. Google Host is one of the organizations that register domain names. Now, domain name registration is coordinated by the region or by the area. But then, just to keep the answer straight, I don't want to go to NERA and all the rest. Just to keep the answer straight, we have googlehost.com, we have godaddy.com, we have namecheap.com, we have bytehosting.com.
Hello.
But it's a fire, you're saying something?
Yes, sir. I was going to say that if you could just, you don't have to go into NERA, but if you could just explain the hierarchy, from just hierarchy, then we can now go into the various.
Okay. So we have it in hierarchies and we have it in regions. For example, in Nigeria, we can register websites, register domain names. Yeah, domain name is the right term. By having this extension .ng. I know a lot of us will have seen websites that has .ng extension. That's to say xyzcompany.ng or xyzcompany.com.ng. That can be registered with the likes of Google Host. Google Host is a Nigerian domain registrar. And then for UK, will have come across .co.uk, etc. That's for regions. Now, in hierarchies, we have statehouse.gov.ng. It's an example. That's a government-based website. And to register that, of course, the documentation required to register .gov.ng is different. And of course, the registrar must be sure that whoever is developing it is actually developing it for a government agency. We have other extensions for different regions. We have .us, we have .ca for Canada, we have .kr for Korea, we have .au for Australia, etc., etc. I hope that has answered the question.
Yes, sir. To just add to that, for lawyers asking where can we register all of these domain names, I know it sounds simple, but I will advise that if you're a lawyer, registering a domain name is not a primary function of a legal practitioner. I will advise that you should, we advise our client to get an IT person to register it for them. I don't know if that, if this point of mine is very important. So as lawyers, we have IT people, any IT person or any media person. As a lawyer, you should have them as either your friend or colleague to be able to say, oh, I have a client who would like to register a domain name. Could you help us check if this domain name is available? And they'll be able to give advice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hardy. So I have a question for Mr. Victor. In your experience, sir, how will you describe a successful, how can you define a success? What does a successful website project looks like to you, sir? Mr. Victor. A successful website project that you have ever done. What does it look like to you, sir?
Okay, now, successful is relative.
Okay.
Because, it depends on the interest of the client. Yes, a lot of times we advise clients, let's go this way, let's go that way. So whatever gets the client satisfied and whatever, yes, gets the client satisfied and actually enhances the vision, the mission, or the purpose of the website is a success. What sometimes, because whatever is good in my own perspective can be the technical angle of things. Oh, this has been done perfectly. These links are working. These functions are working well, etc. But the client says the color he or she likes is black and gray, for example. That can even still fly. You understand? So
yes, sir.
It's very relative. It's very relative.
Okay.
But I strongly believe in functionality and good user interface.
So customer satisfaction, a client satisfaction is a success.
No, not exactly.
Okay.
Sometimes the ability to ensure we guide the customer to succeed in his aim and objective is the success. Because the customer may lack ideas and may even be directing or giving us a wrong direction. But then our ability to tune the customer in line with his vision, in line with the reason for that development, and we agree on it, I think that's success to me.
Thank you very much, sir. So please, if you have questions, put it on the chat box or raise your hands. It's very important we ask questions because we don't get to see sections like this all the time. So the young lawyers and even developers in this webinar, if you have a question, please raise your hands or you can just put it on the chat box so that we'll answer your questions.
while we're waiting for that, Mr. Victor, you kind of mentioned something about engaging tech people, because the domain registration function is actually it's not a purely legal, it's not a legal function, even the search. And in reality, you can actually go on, there are many websites that offer tools where you can conduct searches for free. Almost all the all the websites, Google Host and Co. Google Host is now Go 54 or something. But all of them, if you use GoDaddy, they all have tools that can tell you, what domain names are free and available. And I remember some years ago, I think somewhere around 2009, 2010, I recall that at that time, there were limits on I forget, on the domain extensions that you could use. So you either had .com, .org, these and so on. And sometimes while searching for particular domain, you might come up with a very good domain name idea. While searching or trying to confirm whether that domain is free, someone somewhere will just sweep up the domain, and they will start offering to sell it back to you. Those things are, it shows that websites, as Kyle said, and our domain names are assets. But so you can conduct a search to find out if your client, you're doing a registration for your client. Whether I think the question of whether or not you should have a website is not a question of whether or not. It is a question of what type of website are you going to have. I think in this sense, I should also speak to lawyers to say that there's no reason why we should not have every lawyer on this call. If you're a lawyer on the call, or if you're opening a business, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a website that is functional, at least a website that points to you. As human beings, we are not awake 24 hours of the day, but your website is available online 24 hours of the day. You can use social media, but it's always good to have your social media pointing to your website, because you will still sleep. Then, of course, Victor will tell us about different tools that can be deployed to even to interface with customers or people that go to your website. So you can have AI tools, chatbots that will engage with them as though they were chatting with the lawyer, with somebody in chamber. So this is one area that I believe that every lawyer should have a website. It shouldn't be a question of whether or not you have a website. It should be a function of what type of website do you have, as lawyers. So I would say very, very, very important. And Mr. Victor is here. He's a fantastic web developer. I don't design websites. Mr. Victor does. Although I didn't have a background many years ago. So Mr. Victor can tell us where we can find him. Maybe share his contact details. I don't know. In the chat, where we can find him. Mr. Carlos can tell us where we can find him. We'll go much. It's going to be a very interesting conversation when we're looking at dispute resolution, because that really is where the meat of the matter is. And I can assure you that the answer is not in court, and the answer is not with the police, not with EFCC, it's not with Nigeria Police Force Cyber Crime Center. The answer actually is in alternative dispute resolution. That is the future, and it is here. And then of course, IP Lawyers is very proud to run this, to be a partner in this conversation. So thank you very much to IP Lawyers application. Thank you very much, Damilola. You can find them on everywhere on all social media. But maybe Mr. Victor can tell us where we can find him. He probably has a website, www.victor.com. That's not his website, I'm just kidding. But tell us where we can find you, Victor. I'm sure you're on LinkedIn, you're on Instagram. Same thing with Mr. Adeniji. So we'll be hearing more from you next week.
Okay, thank you. Barrister Folani. Once again, my name is Victor Idowu, and I'm a co-founder with Uveros Technologies Limited. The website is www.uveros.com. Uveros is spelled UVERUS.com. And I'll put my name, my phone number, and my email address in the chat box. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's a pleasure being in your midst.
Thank you very much, Mr. Victor. So you can reach out to Mr. Victor on uveros.com. So, sir, someone is asking, Solomon Obafemi said, much appreciated for this knowledge. May I humbly crave the indulgence of the organizer that the recording of this lecture may be available to participants for continuous learning. Asking Mr. Folari, sir.
Yes, I believe that that will be done. Please fill out the form, the feedback form. I also believe that we're broadcasting to YouTube as well. And I want to believe that on the MBA Garki branch YouTube channel, you should find this broadcast. But for the purposes of sharing the recordings, so you can catch. Thank you very much, Community Secretary MBA. The session is streamed live. You can catch a replay on the MBA Garki branch YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have a question here, sir. Raphael Omobogo is asking, in a situation where your clients pay for your products/services via a payment platform gateway, what do you do when such a payment gateway withholds your funds as part of their KYC requirements and you have complied with the said requirement? What's the best way to resolving such disputes, especially when the fines have been withheld for such an unnecessary long period of time? I believe this question is for Mr. Kayode.
Yeah, that will be on Tuesday. Is this something we need to answer now, or we should reserve it on Tuesday? I'll crave Mr. Aluko's permission so that we, I don't know. Should we reserve it to Tuesday?
I think we should reserve the dispute resolution part.
Tuesday.
But if there's a technical, to Tuesday, if there's a technical part, because because the person mentioned payment gateway, because I'm sure Victor will tell us there are many layers to. Sometimes they are integrating so many features or functions into the website. There's a failure somewhere. Who do you hold responsible? But we can hold the dispute resolution part at day, adjourn it to Tuesday next week. I think we'll just note Mr. Raphael and hopefully I'm sure you filled the form. Please join us on Tuesday next week. Share, and perhaps if Victor has any intervention from the technical side, maybe he can share. It's just like when you go to a vendor or a retailer and purchase something, and payment fails, but the debit is recorded. Most vendors now tell you that go to your bank for settlement. They're not responsible. So sometimes, interestingly, transaction may have gone through at the end. I'll let Victor, the technical expert, industry expert. Thank you, Mr. Kaido.
Thank you. So, Mr. Raphael, you can join this section on Tuesday to get your question answered. You can reach out to Mr. Victor Idowu on his phone number. It's on the chat box, and his email address is also here, victor.idowu@gmail. Let me see. Okay, at uveros.com. If you have question, put it here, please. We'll soon be wrapping up the session. Please ask your questions. If you have any questions, we're waiting.
Okay, I'm sure in the absence of any other questions, Mr. Kayode, where can we find allarbitrates.com?
Yes, sir. So it is allarbitrates.com. It's a website. If you also have those who use Android can also download the app on their phones, on Android phones, and on iPhones and iStore is also allarbitrates.com. But I'm a senior partner in a law firm called Loricles, and my email is kayode.adeniji@loricles.com. I'm going to put that email also in the chat box as I speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kayode. So as we wrap up, one thing should be clear to all of us. Most website disputes don't happen because people are dishonest or incompetent. They happen because critical questions were never fully discussed or clearly documented at the beginning of the agreement or contract. Today, we have returned consistently to three simple but powerful questions, which are: what are we building? Who owns what? And who does what and when? When those questions are answered early and documented properly, website projects tend to run more smoothly. Relationships are protected and disputes becomes exception rather than the rule. So our key takeaway here is that good contracts are not just legal documents, they are communication tools. We want to thank our speakers, and I want to say that I want Mr. Victor to give us his final remark, and also Mr. Kayode before we finally close this session, sir.
What's up, Mr. Falai now?
Of course. Definitely, sir. It's because they are our
guests.
Guest speakers. Yes, sir. That's why.
Okay.
The floor is open to you, yes, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure being in your midst. And on final note, web development is very interesting. I mean, the joy in it is the ability to help others to achieve their dreams, ability to interpret their visions and their ideas. If it is done right, if it is done properly, it fosters a long-term relationship. And I think that is one thing that should be interesting to every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kayode, sir, please, your final remark.
My final remark is that I believe that this session we have had here today is very enriching from Mr. Ido, and I want to thank him and Mr. Aluko and the audience, the engagement and the question that I'm reading from the chat box here. I want to say that I really appreciate it. So this is the way to go, and I cannot imagine what the next 5 years of our lives are going to be. So when you see Elon Musk buying Twitter, you know that it is more than just what meets the eye, because this is somebody who is in space, doing a lot of things, building Tesla, and then he's coming to Twitter to buy it, meaning that website is indeed an asset. And I want to congratulate everyone on this platform. Please don't gatekeep. I know a lot of people will not, especially in a third world like ours, they are not open to some of this discussion. They are not exposed to it. We should invite as many people as possible and share the YouTube link to them so that all of us as professionals in Nigeria, we are ahead of the global trend of where the wealth of the world is going to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's a very powerful one. Thank you so much, sir. I'll now leave the floor to our leader, indefatigable leader, Mr. Falari Aluko. We have you, sir.
Thank you very much, Asma. I believe my intervention really, or my final words would be to say that websites are property, it's intellectual property. Everybody should have a footprint on the internet, and I'm speaking to lawyers now to say that there's no reason why you shouldn't have a website up and running, for yourself, for your business. It's very, very, very important. The importance of these tools cannot be overemphasized. I remember some years ago, we talked about running a digital practice. Now we have the tools. We have so many tools available to us. You're talking of agentic, we're in the age of agentic AI now. So I think that we should take advantage of all these things. Thank you very much, everyone. For those of us who are on YouTube, thank you very much. I see we've had a very, very, very interesting and fantastic conversation. Thank you very much, Asma. Mr. Bulus Adsen, thank you so much. Past chairman, MBA Abuja branch, member of MBA Garki branch. I greet you. Thank you very much for joining. All protocols duly observed. We once thank our branch chairman, Mr. Anthony Bamdele Ojo, for making this session possible. Thank you very much, sir. This is not the vote of thanks yet. I think I'll hand over to Asma for that. But before we say goodbye, thank you very much, Asma. I'm wearing my cap now as the chairman of the CLE committee. So thank you very much to Asma, a very, very erudite moderator.
Oh, thank you, sir. Placard.
Yes. Don't worry. One website for you, Asma.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edo, Mr. Victor Edo. Thank you, Kayode. Looking forward to a very interesting conversation next week. And thank you. The most important people in the room really are fantastic participants in the house. I'm just doing a quick scan through. I know Damilola was here. Damilola is the publicity secretary of the MBA Garki branch. Thank you very much, Damilola, and she's also the head of the IP clinic of EPLAN. EPLAN is the Intellectual Property Lawyers Association. For a lawyer who is into intellectual property, EPLAN is where you should be. I see Mr. Michael Babajide. Thank you very much. So, like I said, Mr. Edo, Mr. Olusegun Edo, well done. Thank you. Good to see you, our clinic people, our EPLAN people. So, I'll hand over back to Asma to wrap this up. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So I would like to thank our speaker, especially for giving us this enriching session. And I would like to thank the organizers, our leader, Mr. Falari Aluko, the branch chairman, Mr. Anthony Bamdele Ojo. Thank you very much, sir, for giving us this opportunity. And the publicity secretary, Damilola. I'm very grateful for all you do. Thank you very much, everyone that has joined this session. I hope you have taken something very, very interesting away from this session. And I hope we implement what you have learned today Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining. So on this note, I hope you permit me to, I'll move the motion that we close down this session.
Thank you very much. Seconded. Motion seconded.
Okay, sir. Have a very good evening, everyone. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.